Good afternoon. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Today's October 14th, 2024. It is now, what are we at? 5:01. Do we have a confirmation of a quorum, please?
We do.
We have a confirmation. Would everyone please stand for our Pledge of Allegiance to the U.S. flag and the Texas flag? Let's please recognize a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is letter D, workshop or public hearings. Do we have any activity, Marilyn?
No, sir, not at this time. We don't have a workshop.
Okay. Next item is public comments. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment at this time?
We have no public comments.
We have, I'm sorry?
No public comments.
No public comment, thank you. We'll move into the consent agenda items. For the record, we have 14 items under consent at this time. Is there any questions or any concerns from any board member regarding any item that may be pulled out of consent for further consideration? Okay. I do understand, Ms. Gilbert, that we have an item being pulled by administration.
Yes, and that would be in the individual consideration that we will be putting item number 6, but this is okay to vote upon.
All right, since it's under consent, are we taking the action on this?
No, the item's under individual consideration, not
Okay.
consent.
Okay, I
Yeah.
see, thank you. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda items.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a first by Dr. Holman and a second by Mr. Martinez. All those in favor to approve the consent agenda items, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those
Aye.
against? This item passes. Let's move on to items for individual consideration. General Manager's report. Ms. Gilbert.
Good afternoon, members of the board, Mr. Chairman. If you look in your packet, you have the board calendar. In there, you have the monthly scheduled meetings along with the PubCap meetings and the SRWA board meetings. We also have included in your packet the other events. We also have various different meetings that we've already had from the finance committees and also future meetings for the finance committee. I do want to keep in mind, if you can have your calendar, on November 21st, we have our BPAB annual safety luncheon, and at times we have had board members attend. We also have on December the 14th our BPAB annual dance and dinner, so if you all want to attend, just note it on your calendar. Holidays that are upcoming on November 11, Veterans Day, and Thanksgiving holiday on November 28th and 29th, along with the Christmas and floating holiday that are scheduled in December. The next page on your calendar, we also have provided you the 2025 holiday calendar, so that way you can start noting it on your personal calendar so you know what days are on there. It doesn't really affect any of the board meetings, but it may affect one SRWA meeting in the future in September, so whoever is the designee for that would be changing that board meeting date. We also included under industry updates. Any questions on board calendar before I move on?
Any questions on calendar?
Okay.
Okay.
So under industry updates, we provided testimony on the House Natural Resource Committee for implementation of the Senate bill. And this is the same type of filing that we did last month also for the House side. It's, if you haven't had a chance, you know, please take a look at it. It talks a lot about our water strategy and various different things that we have upcoming for the utility. I also sent to you all earlier today, in respect to water, communication from IBWC, International Boundary Water Commissioner, from Commissioner Maria Elena Giner, and that we are going to be having a meeting later on this week talking about the flows from the Gulf of Mexico from another source, which is Rio San Juan River, that flows into the Rio Grande below Falcon Dam. So that's something that we will be updating the rest of the board on communication at a later date. With that, we've also, just moving on to the next topic, is we've also initiated a cost of service study and rate study on the electrical side of the business, and that was hired by New Gen Strategies and Solutions, and so we have already looked into the guidance for the development of the study, and the work plan has been going, and so that's going to be several months before we come back to the board for presentation and adjustments if we need to on any of the electrical rates. Any questions on those two items before I move on to other items? No? Okay. So we also had a meeting with the Rio Grande Water Planning Group, which is Region M, on September 24th, and later on this week we will have an additional meeting to discuss the various different policies. Among that, it's important to note that we're reporting the updating water availability model and including into the plan for water strategy. We also have a Texas Public Power Association site visit last week from the CEO, and we will be having our board meeting later on this month, which I will be attending. And following, let me see, I have a little bit more. We also have a few more items later in the report that staff are going to be touching on drought and other additional things that we need to review. Any other questions on industry updates?
Any questions or comments from the board? None at this time. Ms. Gilbert?
Okay. Oh, one other item I just remembered. In your supplemental packet, you'll see the grants that have been submitted. Those are the active, the pending, and also the ones that we have been awarded. And so if you have any questions, we can have a separate discussion either at the Finance Committee or any other of the meetings. We do have some additional grants that have been submitted under WaterSmart earlier this month and after the board meeting that we reported. When awarded, that's when they come back to the PEB board for action and recommendations. Some of them were submitted also on behalf of SRWA. And that concludes my report.
Thank you for that information, that report, Ms. Gilbert. We'll move on. We don't have any items, any consideration and action on any items pulled out of consent. I know we have one in the next category, but we'll go with staff reports, presentations to the board, financial report. Mr. Bettis.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Mike Bettis. I'm the Chief Financial Officer, and I'll be presenting the financial performance report for the city of Brownsville as of August 31, 2024. So here we've got the executive summary that focuses on 7 categories. Each category has its own gauge meter, red being poor, yellow average, and green good. So regarding our flow of funds, we're doing great. Year to date, we've generated $17.85 million to replenish the improvement fund. Our debt service coverage is at 2.86 times, which is well above the 1.25 times minimum requirement. The fuel purchase and energy charge rate did see a reduction of 20% in the month of August, down to 6.273 cents per 1,000 kWh. The Risk Oversight Committee went ahead and dropped it another 20% for the month of September, down to 5.019 cents per 1,000 kWh. So we're doing great there as well. The COB cash transfer is higher due to an increase in adjusted gross revenues. The city is seeing a $1.6 million increase in their cash transfer, which is great news for the city, great news for us as well, because we've got increased adjusted gross revenues. Personal expenses are in line with our budget, while the non-personal expenses came in lower than budgeted, primarily due to some timing issues. That total was about $6.8 million below budget. As mentioned on the BPB's average bill, came in lower than both the average MOU bill and the average IOU bill for 1,000 kWh. The average price on the electric side for the 1,000 kWh user for the month of September was at $111.36, which is significantly lower than a couple of months ago. Our CIP spending, we're still lagging behind, having only spent $31.8 million year to date, which is 34.77% of the fiscal year 24 approved plan. During the Finance Committee, Mr. David Ramirez, the Maintenance and Reliability Engineering Manager, provided a presentation on capital improvement plan delivery initiatives to improve our project performance. Mr. Ramirez is scheduling weekly CIP meetings with each department and division. They are identifying the CIP project manager. They are discussing the CIP project schedules, identifying key project delivery milestones, and identifying project performance metrics. He also went ahead and mentioned that staff is also in the process of implementing the eBuilder enterprise project management software. And so this initiatives here should improve the project performance going forward in fiscal year 2025. The last metric here, category, I'm sorry, all key financial metrics are currently in compliance, so we're doing well. Here we've got a condensed statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. This is in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. We are comparing the year-to-date this year to the same period last year. Starting off with operating revenues, year-to-date we're $215,683,000. These are $19 million. This is a $19 million decrease from last year. We did see sales increase by about $5.7 million over last year, but we also saw a decrease of $15.7 million in fuel revenues, and then we did use $9.5 million of the from the fuel sub-account to pay down the customer's production costs for the month of November and December. Moving on, operating expenses were $185,296,000. We did see a decrease of about $8.8 million from prior year. Some of the major changes in this category included a decrease in purchase power and fuel of $15.7 million, while we also saw an increase in personnel costs of $5.5 million from the implementation of the compensation study, and we also saw an increase in depreciation expense of about $2.4 million over last year. Moving on, line 3 operating income was $30,386,000. Once we back out the non-operating expenses of $13,322,000, we end up with income before capital contributions of $17,064,000. The big drop that we see in the non-operating expenses from 48 down to 13, the majority of that represents the Tenaska Equity Fund distribution that was issued back in May of 2023. So once we add in capital contributions of $9,329,000, we end up with an increase in net position year-to-date of $26,393,000. Adding this to the net position at the beginning of the fiscal year, we end up with a net position at the end of the period of $479,002,000. Moving on, here we have the condensed summary of revenues and expenses. This is based on the flow of funds, so it's in accordance and in compliance with our bond ordinance. Here we compare year-to-date actuals with the year-to-date budget. So operating revenues, again, were $215,866,000. These were $2.3 million under budget. Although we did see an increase in the base rate revenues of $9.5 million, we did see a decrease in the fuel and off-system sales of about $11.87 million. Other revenues year-to-date were $24,778,000. These were $5.1 million above budget, and this represents some additional ancillary sales in the ERCOT market and increased interest earnings from budget. So we arrive at line 3 gross revenues of $240,644,000. Once we back out fuel and the SRWA contribution of $80,207,000, we arrive at the adjusted gross revenues of $160,437,000. This is the basis for the City of Brownsville's 10% calculation, so the city is entitled to $16,043,000. Once we back out the other requirements for O&M, non-operating expenses, debt service of $111,795,000, and also backing out the COB usage of $5.6 million, and we arrive at a balance available after requirements of $43 million. Backing out the transfer to the city net of their usage of $10,402,000, and we arrive at a balance available for PUB uses of $32,598,000. Now, that $32 million was used to fund budgeted CIP of $14,749,000, leaving a balance to replenish the improvement fund of $17,848,000 year-to-date. That concludes the financial performance report. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions from any of the board members, any comments? Mike, I'd just like to ask you to go to the first slide real quick. The colorful, right there.
Right there.
I just want people that are listening, or people that perhaps are tuning in on this. On the second item there, FPEC has generated an over recovery of $13.67 million. Could you explain that a little bit to us?
Yes, so over the previous months, the rate has actually generated a little bit more revenue than the actual production costs that we've seen.
Okay.
We've seen mild August and a mild September, and so we were able we over-recovered, in essence, on the
It
on
doesn't
the
mean
fuel
that we
percentage.
made a profit. It means that,
No, exactly. This is not a profit. This is
Okay.
money that's owed back to the customers. And so this is what it has allowed us to reduce that FPEC rate that I was just, we dropped it 20% in August and another 20% in September. And so that's how this 13.67 will be depleted and brought down to a stable amount.
thank you for that explanation.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have any comments or questions? Okay, that's it, Mike. You have another item?
Yes, I've got the next item as well. Once I get through all this. Oh, okay, so it's not up there. But the next item is the General Manager Procurement Authorization report. So on a quarterly basis, we provide the board with a report of the General Manager Procurement Authorizations. Our General Manager and CEO has the authority per board policy to approve bids and contracts up to $200,000, right? And so on this list, you'll see 20 different contracts that were awarded during the period of July through September 2024, totaling $1,366,567.61. The majority of these bids and contracts were for competitive bid and state contracts. That's all I have. Do you all have any questions?
Any questions, comments on Mr. Pettis' presentation on the procurement summary? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the next item.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pettis.
So good evening, Mark Dombrowski, the Chief Operating Officer. In your packet under 3C, you'll find a PowerPoint that we delivered to the City Commission on September 17th, as well as a copy of the report that we submitted to the City Commission. And this was in response to our requirement under Article 6, Utility Board, Section 4F, where we are to report to the City Commission our annual report providing an update on the progress of working with the City of Brownsville on common goals. So I'm just delivering to you what we provided to the City Commission in public. I would note on your PowerPoint deck there on page 12, there is a section where we're discussing our Resaca operations. At the request of the city, that was omitted from the one we provided to the City Commission, but otherwise all that information was provided. You can find a report to the City Commission on our website at BPUB.
Okay, any comments, questions for Mr. Dombrowski? All right.
Just to check, slide 12, the land use MOU type,
It's on ensuring quality of life.
did I?
Yes.
jump
And there was
to-
a section that's highlighted in like a light blue.
The Resaca Restoration Project? Okay.
Correct.
At the very bottom, that was
Right, that
omitted.
section was originally submitted, and then we removed it for the presentation to the city commission. So we're just showing you what was in the original submission.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I do want to add this time that the Finance Committee did extensively talk about Resacas, and there was an extensive presentation, so if you all have not had a chance to see that presentation, it is, was done on October the 9th, and it's approximately 20 minutes. And if there's any questions on that, it focused on the last directive that the board had requested of us for the Finance Committee to review that information.
Marilyn, is that on our website?
Yes, it
That
is.
presentation? That was an excellent presentation with a lot of information. Okay, thank you. All right, our next item is Mr. Albert Gomez is going to present on the lead copper rule revisions.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Albert Gomez, Director of Environmental Services, and today I'll be presenting an overview of PUB's lead and copper rule revision service line inventory project. This project is critical for complying with the updated regulations set by the EPA. So I'll get right into it. Here's our agenda. Talk about the project purpose, inventory activities, project limitations, initial inventory submission, and the next steps for BPUB. Yeah, the main goal of this project is to comply with the EPA's lead and copper rule revisions. To do this, we develop an inventory of all our water service lines in the system, identifying materials for both system-owned and customer-owned portions. Each line is categorized as non-lead, lead galvanized requiring replacement, which is the GRR, or lead status unknown. This will allow us to prioritize and address any potential risks related to lead. For the initial inventory, we reviewed various historical records and collected data during regular operations. Key sources included over 12,100 customer service inspections, water line replacement records, service line details, a 2019 lead and copper review, GIS data, and even online resources like Zillow and Redfin for property information. This extensive review provided the foundation for our inventory. I'm happy to report that the initial inventory submission is fully compliant with the LCRR law, and after completing the records review, we categorized 69% of service lines as non-lead, while 31% remain with an unknown lead status. So this submission has been reviewed and accepted by the TCEQ, which marks a significant milestone for this project. Of course, there's always project limitations. It's important to note that the inventory is limited by the availability and accuracy of our historical records. While we did our best to ensure the accuracy of the data, outdated or incomplete records can lead to some uncertainties. The inventory remains a living document, though, and meaning it will be updated as we gather more information, especially when addressing the unknowns. Next steps for BPUB. Looking forward, BPUB will need to consider the lead and copper rule improvements LCRI recently released on October 8th. These improvements mandate the removal of all lead and GRR service lines by 2037. So identification of all unknown materials and validation of service line data. Additionally, new tap sampling requirements and public notification protocols will come into play. So to ensure accuracy, the initial inventory will be published online, We'll provide 30-day certification notice to customers served by lines of unknown material. I believe in your packet, or maybe they just passed it out right now, is actually the public notification that we're going to be sending to the customers that have an unknown status, and we have that in Spanish and English as well. So while the LCRI pauses annual notices until 2027, it incentivizes us to identify unknowns before then to minimize disruption to customers. We're also planning for identification of unknown lines and the prioritization of lead and GR service line replacements. BPOB would need to outline funding for these replacements, though the LCRI has pushed this requirement to 2027. If we identify unknowns before 2027, the need for a replacement plan may be reduced. Guidance from the TCEQ in identifying unknowns is expected after October 16th. Between 2025 and 27, we'll focus on resolving unknowns to meet LCRI requirements, reduce annual notices, and potentially eliminate the need for a replacement plan. So that's the conclusion of my presentation. Kind of in a nutshell, it was a little short version of it, but is there any questions that I can entertain? We do have our consultants, Trupani, and as well as some subject matter experts that have been working on the project as well, so.
So it would be good to verify, just, yeah, I know we already talked about this, I think, at the Finance Committee meeting.
Okay.
But we will be responsible for replacing lines on private property if they are found to have lead?
That we are waiting on guidance. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but yes, there may be some, we're waiting on some guidance, and there might be something that they may be recommending. I'm not sure if that's going to be the homeowner would receive some monies to do that, or that we would do it, through PUB.
Okay,
So
and
there
then,
might be, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of discussion for, somebody getting into somebody's private property is
right,
not
right.
always.
Now, there's an interesting point in this letter, and just thought it might be good to clarify. There isn't a single pipe in the PUB system, not private system, but there isn't a single lead pipe in our system that we, and we're sure of that.
We believe it's very minimal. Let me see, we've got,
Do you mind if I chime in on that?
with that?
I can add a
Okay.
comment to that.
We've got the consultant, I guess, is going to help us out with that question, because they did some of the evaluation.
Yeah, so none of the documentation that we've reviewed so far, we have
Sorry,
not seen.
Sorry, one moment, we can't hear you.
Uh,
I think that's on our end.
Our end. Having a little issues with the volume, not sure if you can hear us.
Try again?
Hi, can you hear me?
Better.
Better, yes.
Okay, yeah, I was just going to add in that in all of the documents that we've reviewed, we have not found any evidence of lead service lines, either on the water system owned portion or on the customer owned portion. We still do have those unknowns remaining. And if we were to identify a lead service line on either side, that's where that replacement plan would come in. The way that the law is specified right now is that the utility would be required to offer replacement, but they do not have to incur the cost of replacement if it's on private property. We do need to review this new law to see if that has changed. And there is funding available at the state level to help pay for the work on both private and public property as well. So if that's encountered, then we can pursue potentially applying for that as well. But we don't have any evidence of lead service lines yet, so we're not able to pursue that funding for replacement until and if we do find lead.
So we do water sampling, right? We do, because the water report that's presented once a year.
That is
that's
correct.
sampling done in the house? Is that correct?
No, we have certain sites that we test for lead and copper. Actually,
I think it's required to be done.
Here, wait, you gotta come up.
yeah. We do have our laboratory, acting laboratory manager here with us, so.
Hello, Gabriel Coronel, Analytical Laboratory. Yes, we do sample our residential homes. Right now, we actually have reduced monitoring, which is a great news because we didn't detect any lead on the light, so we're good with that.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question. I mean, for the ones that we do residential, obviously it's not all lines, but, would we be able to detect it? So we would be able to, and you're saying that there's none that was detected?
Yes, sir. We actually finished collecting the sample this past June, so we're up to date. It'll be on this most recent CCR report.
Okay, thank you for answering that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions from the board members or comments or concerns or?
Yes, so I'm having still trouble understanding. The lead status unknown, 31%, that applies to our lines too, right?
Shannon, are you still?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so what the inventory requires is there has to be a material designation on the public side and then a material designation on the private side. If one of those is lead, GRR, or unknown, the entire line gets classified with that classification in an effort to become more protective. So if there is an unknown on the private side, it's known copper or plastic non-lead on the public side, the entire line still gets classified as unknown. So we do have a breakdown on a previous slide of showing the difference between the public side and the private side. So I don't know if we're able to go back to that slide or not, but we can see here, yes. Okay. So yeah, on the public side, we have 4.5% that's unknown. And then on the private side, we have 29.5%. And then when we combine those two together for the overall line classifications, it comes out to 31% because there are some that are unknown on both sides, which is why it's not an exact sum of both of those because some overlap. But we have significantly less unknowns on the public side because of the documentation with all of those different records that we reviewed.
Okay, so 4.5% on the public and less than 4.5% on the private make 31%?
No, we have 29.5% on the private.
Okay. Okay, I see that. And what would it take for us to bring that 4.5% to zero?
Yeah, so what we're waiting on right now is for the first phase of this work, there were only certain methods that could be used, historical records and identification during normal operations to make classifications. What's going to happen after October 16th is TCEQ is going to release guidance on how we can identify unknowns. We haven't been able to do that yet because the strategies haven't been signed off on yet. What we have done on projects in other states outside of Texas, because Texas hasn't allowed this to happen yet, is doing a statistical approach where we will randomly inspect unknown lines and then be able to have a 95% confidence interval plus or 5% margin of error on knowing the materials of those unknowns. And so our next phase of work will be waiting for that TCEQ guidance and approval of using statistical methods and then being able to use those to further reduce the unknowns and identify those service line materials.
So this 4.5%, this is not a random sample of the city. This is like very like old lines. Is that what it is?
The 4.5% that's unknown, everything else that is known, we had a record in place to know the exact material. For that 4.5%, there were no records that existed to identify the material of those service lines.
So no records existed because they're older?
Well, it doesn't have
Yes,
to be. It
yes.
just
No?
means there are no records. I mean,
What would
Well,
be
there is a lead ban date in the state. So anything that was newer, even if we didn't have a record, we could say is non-lead if we knew the date that it was installed. So those 4.5%, yes, would be older because they would be non-lead other if it was after the lead ban date, but we didn't know the material.
Okay, so then the 4.5% that we don't know are the ones at highest risk for having any lead.
well,
Yes, they're the only ones that are unknown right now.
Yes, those are the only ones that are, yeah.
Well, but out of the whole city, because there are no records, so that means that they were likely installed before lead was outlawed.
Right, that's what they're saying.
So-
Everything else was
So
installed
it's-
after.
So essentially, we really care about this 4.5% because they're the ones that are most likely to contain anything.
Correct, and we'll be doing some more assessments to get that number down to zero as well. I mean, if, like you said, the statistical study, or we can go and do, basically dig it up and check it or something as well.
Is
yeah.
there a way for homeowners to test their own water?
Yes. I mean,
Sampling is not approved by the state right now. Water sampling is not because this is the service line. So it's a normal water sample may or may not, detect the lead from the service line. It needs to be a different sampling protocol, and TCEQ has not approved that yet. So we can't use that at this time. But what we can do right now is if a homeowner sees the service line material right where it enters their home, that is acceptable as a way to verify the service line material, but that would be the private side, and that would get into the 29.5% unknown on the private side, not the public side.
How will somebody be able to tell the difference between a lead pipe and a galvanized steel pipe? Or, for example?
Yeah,
PVC seems to-
galvanized is going to be magnetic and lead will not be. So there is some self-guided tests that are available that a homeowner could use to determine if it's magnetic. If it easily scratches, it's more likely to be lead because lead is, more of like a dull metal and can be scratched with a key or something like that. And galvanized would not be able to.
Should we link to those in this letter, just because, we're telling people that, hey, you have a pipe of unknown provenance, it might be lead. And, some people might want to know immediately whether their pipes are lead or not.
What to do for testing.
Yeah, hey, the magnet, the scratch.
That's pretty
Okay.
good advice.
Yeah,
We'll look to
just-
see if those methods are approved, and then we can,
Well, I mean,
yeah.
even if not, just to help the homeowners.
Just some
It's
guidance
kind of
or
like finding out you may or may not have cancer, and all you have to do is this one thing to determine whether or not it's approved by, anybody else. It's like, well, I kind of want to know immediately.
Sure. We'll consider that on in the public outreach.
I had another question. Under historical records reviewed, for information such as online, build year, it lists like Zillow and Redfin that use the county data, and I'm wondering why county data, like Cameron County, what is it, CAT? Like why a resource like that would not have been used instead of the online aggregators?
Oh, a resource as far as the county resources, or?
County appraisal district that has information on
Okay.
like the building year.
And the building year and those types of.
Like, I'm just wondering if that could have brought that 30% unknown to less, just based
Okay.
on the year. So was it used, or?
It was used, that's accounted for in parcel data. The Zillow and Redfin was used a very small amount, and that was for the remaining properties that didn't have a build year within any of the parcel or county data. We were able to use those online resources and eliminate very newly built homes for that private side service line material.
Daisy, let me make a quick comment. I think the feeling from the board is obviously this is a very serious study, a very serious situation, and there's a small percentage of folks out there that need to determine whether or not there's any lead. I have just a quick comment because I think we're going to move on to our next subject, or our next item. Are y'all working closely with the school district? I know there's a lot of old schools working closely with Texas Southwest College. That's their old facilities. The water supplies obviously are coming in from PUB. I know this looks like it's targeted to homeowners or to ratepayers. Maryland, are y'all working at, I believe y'all should be working closely with the schools.
I believe we do some, that's a potential.
We'll come back and report to you additional information on the key accounts and what activities have been done through the key accounts departments. And so this is just something that we were reporting at this time of what we're doing of our activities. But we'll get back to you on that.
And the testing does include some schools. They also have some special requirements and things like that that we.
No, I understand that. And I understand, I'm sure all the newer schools are in compliance with the latest materials, but I know there's a lot of old schools. But it's important information, Dr. Samoda.
More thing. May I?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't like the idea of pausing notices until 2027. I think we need to be doing this annually. This is a very serious matter, as Mr. Rendon has already addressed. And I don't know if there's a way that the board can vote on this, whether we should be doing annual notices or not.
Well, this is a presentation. It's a very important presentation. I'm listening to everyone on the board. I would reach out to the administration to take Dr. Samoda's recommendations at heart. Perhaps y'all can do some work to inform the public a little bit sooner, or at a more frequent time. Any other comments, Mr. Varela? Do you have anything? Mayor?
You know, just to confirm, 4.5% of the total customer base, the water customers, right? Is that what we're talking about?
The 4.5 that we spoke about a little while ago, that's on
Or
the
what is that?
public side.
Only on
the
our
p-
lines
on
that
the
may
PUB
have
side.
lead.
Yeah,
Right,
So it could be 30%.
okay,
yeah,
That's
Understood.
when you include the private property.
okay.
correct. So 4.5 is on our side as far as PUB unknowns, that we don't have any documentation that we're gonna do
So
some
the-
further.
The total is the number of lines? Or what is the
Yes,
50-something thousand? What does that mean?
the 50,000?
Yeah, if you go back to that slide with the pie chart, if you add the 59,000 total, non-lead plus lead status unknown.
Yes, those are
So
the.
what does that number represent?
The 58,000 is the, the total lines that we have.
The number of lines?
Yeah, would those be lines, Shannon, or was that,
Yes, that's the number of service lines total in the entire water system that, come off the water main and feed a business or a house their drinking water.
Albert, Shannon, where's Shannon at? She's our consultant. She's
Yes,
your
she's
consultant. Shannon, where are you coming from, or where are you at?
I am calling in from Tennessee today.
From where?
From Tennessee.
Okay. Albert, obviously, this is an important topic again. I urge y'all to do some more work on this. We may be asking for another presentation on this very, very soon.
okay.
Okay?
I mean, and I'm sure there are very real reasons why we can't, but I think, any kind of secondary test that we can do that may not be accepted by TCEQ, and that's fine. We may be doing some, basically having to redo some work. But anything that can give us confidence that we do not have lead in our service lines, I mean, we'll have to figure out how to do the homeowners as well, but, I think
Sure.
we should feel as confident as we can about what we're doing.
Okay. Yeah, and we're gonna have that on our website, the GIS data where people can go in there and look at the information, things like that.
I have a
So,
question.
Yes,
I thought
sir.
I saw in here that they had given you a kind of a deadline to be in compliance or to remove all lead. Is that,
yes, that was here in October. We needed to submit this inventory. It was just the initial phase, this inventory,
okay, but
based on records review.
does TCEQ require you to have this, the 4.5% on public property removed by a certain time period?
They do
It doesn't,
work-
it doesn't need to be removed unless it's confirmed lead. And right now, what we're suspecting is that it's not lead, but if it were, it would need to be removed by 2037. So by 2037, everything would need to be identified as to what the material is and can no longer be unknown. But we are anticipating being significantly ahead of that 2037 schedule to identify all of the service line materials. We're targeting a deadline of 1 to 2 years to identify all of the unknowns. But again, we can't do that until we have more guidance from TCEQ as to the methods that we can use to identify the unknowns.
Right, so that is also my question, was there was a date of 2037, but obviously we don't really want to wait that long, and so you had targeted earlier.
Correct.
Kind of correction, and I think if, with the next presentation, if you could expand on that a little bit about how would that be achieved in a shorter period of time, that's what's required to be in compliance with the state.
Okay.
Okay, Albert, unless you want to keep going, I think that's
No,
going to be, that's going to be it. All right, we're going to move on. Thank you, Mr. Gomez. We're going to listen to the Digital Information Platform Communication Update by Mr. Collins.
Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Miguel Collis, Digital Information Platforms Manager for Brownsville Public Utilities Board, and I'll be providing you a brief update on our digital information platforms communication. BPB's digital presence includes our website, digital billboards, and social media. We manage over 148 informational pages on our website, along with 2 digital billboards in strategic locations around the city and 6 social media platforms. On our website, you can see some key metrics. For the year, we've amassed about 361,000 unique monthly visitors to our website with an average time of 30 seconds. And a bounce rate of 67.33%, which is standard for informational.
Sorry, what's the bounce rate?
So the bounce rate tracks the amount of time it's on
It's on the bottom, sorry.
Yeah. The amount of time a visitor spends on any given page and drops off the website. What that usually tells you is that they're going there to find specific content. They find what they need, and then they leave. This is in line with the top performing pages, as most of our customers go in to manage their account features, look at payment options, pay bills, things like that, or report service-related issues, apply for service, or visit our outage center as well. Good news is that we've been pushing a lot of social media drought content. And so you can see that it's reflected on the top performing pages. So people are visiting that and making sure that that message is getting across as well. Just to briefly mention some of the improvements we've made on our website, we've continued to optimize and make that user experience easier for our customers by implementing streamlined services. One of them being improved outreach request process, where stakeholders can easily engage with BPB when they want to engage for outreach opportunities, as well as sponsorship requests as well. We've also continued to improve the responsiveness and mobile usability of our website. We've also enhanced the leadership pages, including photos, contact information, and bios for both executive management and the board, just to continue that user experience for the customer. We've also added the City Commission annual reporting, as Mr. Dromboski mentioned. And we've also streamlined our Go Green rebate programs. We've been working with our energy efficiency and conservation department to make that a smoother process for the customer. So that's gone digital, and customers now can do that process entirely online as well. Recently, we launched our water conservation kits, also an initiative to promote water conservation within the community. Additionally, we've added information on our credit card fees and the information that customers can expect regarding that, as well as our watering schedule checker that allows customers to check their watering schedule easily based on their address. So all of these user enhancements, they further the experience of our website, and we're continuously trying to optimize that as well. On the digital billboard sides, we've got 2 billboards, as I mentioned, placed strategically around the city, one in Boca Chica and one in Ruben M. Torres by Sunrise Mall. We have about 13 billboards throughout the year running, promoting various aspects of the utility, how to report outages, our career opportunities, water conservation. So a lot of key messages that we try to promote. And we've gathered about 747.3 thousand impressions between the two. So making sure that message is getting out to the community.
How much is spent on them?
I'm sorry?
How much money is spent on these billboards?
So that contract is actually managed by our Communications and Public Relations Department. We manage the content on the billboard.
And who decides whether or not it's needed?
I'm sorry,
Who decides whether or not it is needed? Like
That-
which department?
that they handle that contract. So we generate the content and manage the messaging on those billboards.
Okay, so you manage the message, but somebody else determines how much they're willing to pay to get that message out, and how often, and
Yeah, so it's a yearly contract, and so, yeah, they manage that.
okay, can the person in charge of this tell us how much this costs?
Marilyn, who's in?
It's
who-
Ryan.
Who oversees this
I'm not sure he's
department?
here right now, so that we have consolidated recently the department, and so now we have digital platforms, and then we have PR and communications, and so they're all under a division manager. I would recommend if you want to have encompassing of the overall area and messaging, we can come back with a later date with combining that. The intent of this presentation was to talk about social media and engagement, and not the overall encompassing of the program.
Marilyn, can you prepare just a report for the board that encompasses the leadership at the top and the budgets for this, please?
Right. I
Will do.
understand that there have been a lot of changes in this department recently.
Okay.
So, thank you.
In
Thank
case the public doesn't want to wait, I believe this is itemized in our budget. So that number is available to anybody, that you're listening and you want to see.
Sure.
Sure. Moving on, we do manage 6 platforms on social media, including Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Nextdoor. We're averaging about 18.4 thousand followers across the platforms, and we average about 18 posts per week for this year. Our content topics include anything from conservation tips regarding water, electric conservation, drought, energy efficiency tips, emergency preparedness, our rebates programs, all our programs and services, Trade a Tree program, tree trimming and fog, fats, oils, and grease, as well as any service-related outages, outreach, and utility-related updates, press releases, and the like. Just a few key metrics you can see here on social media. You'll see a drop on the total number of posts for fiscal year 2024. This was a strategic move just to allow for more visibility and avoid diluting our content. So just to account for some of the algorithms to be able to promote the content that we put out, have that more visible throughout our follower base. You can see that reflected on the increase in impressions. So that resulted in a significant increase in impressions for our content. As you can see, our engagement did drop a little bit, well, quite a bit, for the social media aspect. This is due to several factors, including the number of outages that were reported. There was a winter storm, Tenasca-related content that gathered a lot of engagement, as well as drought. And our bill comparisons also, when we initially launched that, tended to get a lot of engagement. So you'll see that's kind of tapered off for this year. We were asked about our customer sentiment and how we track that. We track customer sentiment mentions across all networks. This involves polling negative feedback or positive feedback based on comments, mentions, and reactions. Right here you'll see that for fiscal year 2024, we've continued to increase our positive sentiment. It's still low, but we've made some headway on that, and so this is due to the diversity in content that we've put focus on. We're trying to put more focus on employee-focused content, as well as other initiatives that I'll talk about in a little bit. So that is some good news that we've managed to increase that. And just to give you a point of reference, some of the topics that tend to gather negative sentiments obviously include service-related issues. During summer, we tend to get hit pretty hard regarding high summer bills, rate comparisons, and of course drought being a hot topic kind of tends to gather some negative sentiment. So we've been placing more focus on, as I mentioned, employee content, highlighting the different roles of employees around the city, and that tends to gather a lot more positive sentiment as well. Just a few highlights. At the request of the board, we've started to incorporate board meeting and committee meeting highlights. You'll see those posted on social media, and that's just in an effort to continue our commitment to transparency. We're diversifying, as I mentioned, our content formats, incorporating more infographics and short-form content so that customers can easily digest the information we're trying to put out. We've also increased our digital advertising, or implemented that actually for social media and streaming radio. Moving forward, we're looking at incorporating social listening tools to better fine-tune our content strategies and reporting. And also, we're continuing to vet and evaluate different platforms to expand our digital footprint, as well as continue to diversify our content formats. Now that attention spans tend to be more shorter, we're trying to accommodate for that by incorporating more reels and things like that on social media. Any questions?
I don't remember who suggested the board and committee meeting highlights, but I see them, and I think that's a great idea. Was that you? That was a great idea.
Yeah, we do that at the city, and I think it works really well.
Yeah.
And I just want to say I really appreciate the content you've been putting out. It's been really good, very well done.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And going back to the billboards, so I think with the digital billboards that the city approves, they're guaranteed a number of hours per billboard for public announcements, right? So the city, I'm not sure if PEB works with the city on that. I'm not aware. But if they don't, I think there's an opportunity there to.
You're talking about the billboard out by the pyramid?
Any digital billboards in the city of Brownsville.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, that's something that we could definitely explore.
Because the city owns one, where the pyramid building is on the expressway.
Yes.
But all the other digital billboards include a certain number of hours dedicated to basically free public service announcements.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything else on this? If not, thank you for that. We'll go on with Mr. Eddie Campiano on customer service update.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Eddie Campirano. I'm with the Customer Service Department, and I'm representing the Customer Service Division, although I like to think of us as the Fun Division, but I may be a little biased. So a little snapshot of that. So this is the Customer Service Division org chart showing the supervisory and managerial breakdown of the division. Within this division, we have about 50 employees that's representative of about 7 different departments. So if you notice those blue squares there are existing positions. The green are positions that are pending to posted, but those are approved, just pending to be advertised for. And that one little mustard colored box there is a proposed new position that has not been approved yet, but that's a representation of the division there. So call center statistics on this. And so I'm not going to focus too much on the graphs. I'm really going to focus on that top right there, that breakdown of the abandon rate, handle rate, queue time, and handle time. And that's just basically a summary of that chart that you see there. So abandon rate is, or an abandoned call, is a call that gets into the queue. Once you go in, you go through the IVR, and you get into that holding area, that virtual holding area. That's the queue. So that's what I'm referring to here as in if you hang up while you're in that queue, that's referred to as an abandoned call. So if you look at those percentages there from 2023 to 2024, we have had a reduction. And we will talk about how we've able to reduce those and some of our future projects to help bring those numbers down. Because a high abandon rate is obviously not positive. We want to handle those customers that are waiting in the queue. Handle time or handle rate are the calls that are actually handled within that queue. So they sat in the queue, and one of our CSRs was able to address their concern or meet their needs at that time and handle that call. So the average queue time in 2023, representative of the 12 months, was 8 minutes and 36 seconds. So if you notice, we did have a reduction of 2 minutes and 48 seconds going into 2024. And again, we'll talk about how we were able to achieve that and what we will do, or we are doing, to continue to bring that number down. And handle time is how long that conversation took. So once you got one of our CSRs on the phone, how long were you on the phone with us, or how long were we on the phone with you to handle to resolve your issue, answer your question, anything like that. So there wasn't a big change there, but our average handle time is typically about 5 minutes per request. Because remember, a customer could be engaging us for any reason. It could be a billing inquiry, it could be a move-in, it could be, I don't have a trash bin, it could be just wanting to know how our day is. You know, different people call for different reasons, and they certainly do, and that's okay. So that typical handle time is approximately 5 minutes for that. So we talked about, okay, how did we reduce our abandon rate, increase our handle time, and bring down that queue? So strategies have been implemented where assistance from other departments has been a big factor as well. So with the graciousness and willingness of like our billing collections department, we see a time of high volume. We're able to borrow from those departments to get more individuals on the phone. Also, rotating staff internally. So we can move, say, if it's a slow cashiering day, I can take one of those CSRs, because all of my CSRs are cross-trained to work in the different departments, so they can lend assistance. So if we do see those times of high call volume, we can be a little bit dynamic and shuffle employees. Future projects that we have going on are looking at the possibility of outsourcing a call center, which we've discussed, and that's currently ongoing for discussion. Network management is a really big thing, especially when it comes to call centers and contact centers. What a network management is basically gives you the ability to forecast. I'm sorry, yes, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt.
Of course.
I just wanted an answer to this before you move further. Well, first, thank you for this presentation. This presentation and the last presentation, I feel, are so important.
Agreed.
And the handled rate is what I want some clarity on. How do you define that?
Okay, so it's if the abandon rate and handle rate, if you add those two together, you're going to get 100%. So once you get into the queue, the abandon rate is when that individual or that customer hangs up. So 70% of customers, or almost 78% in 2024 on the handle rate, that's how many customers that actually entered the queue, that went through the IVR and entered our queue or our virtual holding area, that we answered and fulfilled that call.
But it doesn't mean that the problem was solved.
It depends on the request, and at the end of every call, and we can provide this data, I just did not include it here, but but whatever the customer calls for, we have what's called a wrap-up code. So say, for instance, you called for a specific question, like a billing question, or you wanted to move out your services. So that CSR will code it. Why did you call? And they'll code it if it was completed. And we do have that data available. We do track that data available. And if you would like to take a look at that,
I
I'd
would
be
love
happy
to
to
look
share.
at that data.
Of course.
Thank you.
Of course. No problem. So, but that answer your question about handle versus,
Yes.
okay, great. Any other questions before I move on to the next slide?
No,
All right.
continue, please.
Well,
Okay.
just a comment on the queue time.
Yes, sir.
It would be nice to also see like the min-max.
Sure.
Yeah, or any other, I think the average is good, but probably we hear about, the ones that took a little bit longer, right? So
You're absolutely right.
I'd
We
like
do
to
hear
see,
about those, yeah.
the max.
We can provide that data, so, yeah, no problem. Customer service statistics. Now, this is going to be representative of the lobby, okay? So aside from the call center, we also have our lobby individuals that take those customers face-to-face. So this is a comparison between 2023 and 2024. So what these charts are representative of are appointments, issues, emails, and move-ins. Okay, what do those mean? An appointment are those customers who actually sign up for an appointment, who come in, you can, and customers can schedule an appointment either online themselves, they can call in through our call center, we'll do it for you. You can come in, we'll schedule it for you, but we also do accept walk-ins. So we do accommodate those customers who do come in as well. So those customers who actually have appointments, that's what we're referring to here as an appointment. So if you notice, we had 1,041, we did go up, and this is calendar year, so we haven't finished this year out, so you see our numbers are increasing. Issues, so on Miguel's previous presentation, we showed applying for service was one of his top hits. So if you apply for service online, that generates what we call an issue. So that's what's handled by my lobby staff here is those issues. So that's what I'm talking, our online requests or issues, okay? Emails. So my emails are very similar to my calls. They can be anything. So they can be any type of customer request, inquiry, question, what have you, that come into our customer service email address. They're handled by we refer to them as our offline staff, but our lobby staff, they're handling those emails all day long. That's what their function is. And it is a rotating position, obviously for reasons, but we do handle quite a bit of here, as you can see there. And my move-ins are new service. So you're moving into either you built a home and you're moving into it, or you're moving into an apartment, or you just bought a new home, or whatever. I'm moving in to a new location. It could be a business as well, so move-ins. So breaking it out on a monthly, daily by my CSR. So each one of these requests, we're averaging about 20 to 22 a day per CSR for my 12 lobby CSR staff. Any questions on that? Okay.
I'll just make a quick comment. My parents came into the lobby, I think, this last month, and they had a very positive experience. So just thought I'd pass that along.
I'm glad to hear that. I hope everybody has that experience, and if they don't, I want to hear about it, so.
Should decreasing the number of issues be a goal for the utility?
Not necessarily, because my issues are representative of, by and large, of actual move-ins. So those are either increasing customers, or it just be you moved across town, or something like that. Or we have, especially in apartment complexes, we do have people moving in and out quite often. So that's, even though we refer to them as an issue, and that may kind of sound like a negative word, but really all it is just a task, if you will. It's not necessarily an issue that it's a problem, but it's an issue that we just have to, it's a customer request that we're fulfilling. Does that
I
make
see.
sense?
So could you present data on problems?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. And a breakdown of what we talked about here of my appointments. So going in and taking a deeper dive in my appointments. And we talked a little bit about the wrap-up codes for the call center of why customers are calling in and if it was resolved or not. Well, we also keep those metrics too for appointments that are actually coming in. So why did customers come in to visit us for an appointment? And you can see by and large it's for new accounts. They're moving in. They're providing us documents, their deeds, their lease agreements, and things like that. And they'd actually prefer to do it in person. And it's actually that first column there that says new account / changes. Okay, so most of those are going to be my move-ins. Changes would be I'm adding a relationship, or maybe a different a change in marital status, anything like that, change to an existing count or move-in. Those are going to be, by and large, again, are most of our, why customers are coming in, followed in by billing inquiry. I know that Miguel on his previous slide showed that we, during summer months, obviously we have a sentiment of high bill concerns, but we also know that Mother Nature is a driver on consumption. So that's, it's not a shock to see that we do have more billing inquiries during the summer months there, because we're answering those high bill concerns and things like that. Of course, we do know that's attributed to Mother Nature, not rates. But we do have those conversations, and that's actually where we have the time to show them the tools that we have available online, talk about what consumption is, and really kind of explain the bill line by line by line. So that also gives us an opportunity. So,
Have
Yes.
you found people being receptive to that when you explain everything in detail?
yes, especially since we know that since they made an appointment that they're dedicating time. So we also realize that since they dedicated time, we are going to dedicate that time to really make sure that they're leaving understanding not only the bill itself, but how they can influence their consumption and how that affects their bill.
Okay, great. And just, I mean, just for clarity's sake, or just to, anyways, go down this road. Have you seen a reduction of consumption after these meetings? Or do you know of any?
We have it tracked on an individual basis, but that's something that we can certainly start benchmarking, at least just sampling. But a lot of the times when they become aware of it, and you can kind of see that aha moment that they do have, and I'm sure that does influence their behaviors going forward. Now, if they continue those, it's not something that we necessarily track, but going forward with AMI being a future state project, that'll certainly answer those questions for us, or
Right.
help actually present that information.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking as using this as a data point for future public education campaigns, but, okay, thank you.
No problem.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
What happened between July and August of this year on the payment arrangements?
On the payment arrangements. So we did take a look at that, and we're taking I'm going to take an opportunity to take a deeper dive as to why. We did have a change, and I was going to talk about that here in a minute, but some of the completed, projects that we've had, and one of them was formalizing a payment arrangement policy, but that actually took place around the March-April timeframe, so it wasn't that. So we're going to take a deep dive as to why there was an increase in customers actually making appointments for payment arrangements, because they're absolutely still available, and we encourage them. So we want customers to utilize those tools. Customer assistance programs. Okay, so I know this is a very busy slide, but I really want to focus on the programs that actually are funded by BPUB, and that's actually Project Share, ILEAP. Project Share, as we know, we're very familiar with. ILEAP is the Elderly Low Income Assistance Program, and CAP is not funded by Brownsville PUB. Those are federally funded and grant-funded programs. And so there's two organizations that we work very closely with. One is CCRGV, or Catholic Charities of the Rio Grande Valley, and the second is KCOST, which is Community Action Corporation of South Texas. We're working very closely, especially and recently with CCRGV. There is an individual that's dedicated to helping us with ILEAP and Project Share, and a success of that partnership that just began in May of 2024. So it's been very recent. If you look at under the Project Share for fiscal year 2023 and 2024, you can see the number of requests went from 111 to 879. That's great. We want to see that number continue to grow. And that's a direct representation or result of that collaboration that we have specifically with Catholic Charities, CCRGV. If you notice also if you're looking at the CAP numbers of why those, again, CAP stands for Comprehensive Energy Assistance Program, and again, those were federally funded or grant funded. There was a significant amount of funding available, especially during the times of COVID. So if you notice, those numbers went down because that grant funding availability through the federal government did go down. So that's why you'll see a drop in those numbers there. But as far as the programs that are funded by Brownsville PUB, we've had an increase in those, which is great. And a big thank you to our PR department and also employees all across the organization and also our digital platforms. By pushing this message out, we actually want customers to participate in these programs and utilize them and leverage them to their benefit. Like I said, I know this is a busy one, but if you guys have any questions, we annually budget $30,000 for ILIAP, and our balance as of October 8th for the project share is just over $950,000. I think it's $962,000 in the bank dedicated to share. So we certainly have funds available. So we encourage customers to apply for those programs.
I haven't looked into this in a long time, but I remember hearing about clients having a very hard time actually signing up for these programs. Part of it is that, I mean, these are organizations outside PUB.
Correct.
Administering this. And, I mean, it could be like emails, would just not get a response, or maybe another thing I heard was about like just with their web portals, like difficulty like uploading things or instructions that didn't make sense. And I was wondering if our staff had looked look at the process, especially for the ones that we provide funds to.
Yes.
We should make sure that our clients are getting some of it. Another issue is that again, when these concerns were raised to me, that these organizations might not have representatives from this area, and it would be interesting to know whether the clients, or the people who are trying to get access to these programs are getting their fair share. So it would be, I mean, I don't know what can be done on this side. Like do you know if the funds that like BPUB provides, and I know that there's a lot of also like federal funds that go into this, but for the funds that BPUB provides, are those going to people from Brownsville?
Yes.
Okay.
There is criteria, and so we were getting very similar feedback, especially during COVID, especially during the tail end of fiscal year 2023. There were other organizations that were receiving those federal funds that were not located in the Valley, like Texas Utility Help, which was an online-only application process, things like that, where we were getting similar feedback, where it was difficult to either get a response back from, or other type of grant-funded organizations. But Catholic Charities and KCOS, they are local, and they do have local offices here. And those, part of that criteria is obviously you do have to be a Brownsville PUB customer to receive funds that go back to us. Now, not to say that they don't offer other programs that assist other individuals in the valley-wide, but these are, going to our customers as well. So we also did identify that there was a need. Okay, we want assistance and collaboration with these organizations to expedite the process, which is why now we have a dedicated individual with Catholic Charities, which is, you see, a significant jump in that number of participation and requests there was a direct result of increasing that collaboration with KCOS. So we identified that need that you just spoke of to enhance that customer experience and increase the participation there to ensure that we're getting that increased level of participation.
So these numbers are for Brownsville?
Yeah, these are our customers. This is Brownsville PUB. We've processed 879 requests. So these are specific and unique to us.
Great.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
That's why I wanted to highlight those increases, because that is a success.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Eddie, just a quick comment. When I see there's a balance and we're in mid-October, I wish there wasn't a balance. I mean, it's telling me that there's people that are not accessing these funds that need the funds. But and we've talked about this in the past. I know Dr. Holm and I have. we got to make a really strong effort to reach out to those folks who are in need. And sometimes the process is a little cumbersome, it's a little tough. I just wanted to pass that on to y'all one more time.
And we encourage customers to apply early. Don't wait, until they're in their rears. I mean, the dialogue, the assistance can happen throughout, being a Brownsville PUB customer. So by all means, please help us sing that song.
Thank you. Anything else on this topic? All right.
Yeah, and just on the slide you just kind of went over. No, the other one.
This one?
That one, yeah.
Okay.
And connecting it to your first slide on the org chart,
Mm-hmm.
I think the analyst role would be very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if it should focus just on collections, but given the amount of data that you have, it sounds like there's a general opportunity. I mean, we have questions, right, because we see little things there, but if you have someone not just collecting the data, but analyzing it, that would probably be good for the department. Here I see the bill redesign. I know we already kind of went past that, right?
Mhm.
So we did a new redesign. But those are things that I think can be fed back automatically, right? So you have an analyst or a feedback mechanism to continue to improve the bill, continue to improve your process, continue to improve whatever information that we see recurring.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, just in the end, to increase our ratepayer satisfaction, right? So just food for thought.
No, agreed. With those analyst positions, I think they're going to provide a lot of valuable assistance. We generate a lot of data, so now we need to do something with that data, and effectively do so. I know I can speak for the customer service side that we're going to have that individual really looking at a lot of QA/QC type of stuff. Now, on the billing and collection side, obviously there's a lot of data, a lot of numbers there, and so how can we leverage that and again be able to show that in digestible bites and things like that. So that would be part of that scope of work.
Yeah, so the bill redesign, for example, and you wouldn't change it every month, but it's probably something ongoing where.
Correct. It's a
annually or
living
something,
document,
yeah.
so as needed. If there's any change in a program or, requirement or messaging or terms and conditions, anything like that, absolutely, it will be updated.
Last question from me. The ending balance as of October 8th, that's almost $1 million. I'm wondering, is there a due date on that? Like, will it go back to the federal government if we don't use it?
No, those are actually, that's BPUB funds. So that is not grant-funded money. That is going to stay within the organization. It will not be lost.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else, Eddie?
That's all I have for you guys.
Very, very well. Thank you for
Thank
that
you.
information. Keep up the good work, Mr. Campirano. Thank you. We have I understand we have a quick drought update. Is that true, Ms. Leon?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Marie Leal, and I'm the Director of Water, Wastewater Engineering and Capital Planning. And I have the latest drought update for you all. Unfortunately, our percentage has not changed one bit. The latest report is still at 20.8. This is a U.S. combined ownership from Amistad and Falcon reservoirs. And technically, the last 3 reporting months, well, the last month, it's been reported 3 times. And you can see on the left-hand side, it's the change has been 0.4% that the reservoirs went up. The graph on your right-hand side is the last 3 years. The line in red were our levels in 2021. The one below it is the green was 2022, which were really 10 to 15% higher than we are right now. The 2023 got a little bit lower, the blue, and then our current one is the purple, the bottom line. That's our 2024 numbers. And we're even 2% lower than we were last year. Last year, we ended the year at 22%. And as you can see, we're 20.8 So that means, unfortunately, we're probably going to start the year even way lower than what we did last year. Key points to remember is that we are, of course, everybody knows this, at historic lows at the end of September, that we're headed into a La Nina conditions that are going to be slightly warmer and I believe even slightly drier than normal for fall and winter of '24. There are insufficient inflows from Mexican and international reservoirs that can service us here in the valley. And then, of course, we're going to continue at stage 2 and start out the year at the middle of stage 2, but with the spring coming and the farmers using water for farming in the spring, I believe we can absolutely, we're headed to 15% combined, which means implementation of stage 3. And that is it for the gloomy update.
Well, thank you for that cautiously optimistic update.
Thank you.
Well,
Any questions?
It looks better.
well, how much, a tenth?
Yeah, no, it was bad.
Okay, well, no, that was good. a
We're not in the
tenth.
teens anymore.
Thank you,
Thank
Marie,
you.
for that presentation. We appreciate it. We have Mr. Santillan is going to give us a presentation on invoices and projected reduction of cash transfer, okay?
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Chair, so, and members of the board. Mike Perez, I'm the Chief Financial Officer, and I'll be presenting this item. So with this item, we just wanted to provide some clarity on the request process for services by the City of Brownsville to keep COB projects on task. Initially, BPUB was not initiating any service work from the City of Brownsville until the contribution net of construction amount was received from the city, just like we do from, or require from any other customer, right? And so this was delaying the work. It is important to note that back on April the 10th, 2023, our previous bond counsel, Oric, Harrington, and Sutcliffe, provided a legal opinion regarding a special covenant in the ordinance regarding no free service. In their legal opinion, they concluded that BPUB is not permitted to provide free services to the city without charging the city for the reasonable value of those services, with a limited exception for free water for firefighting services. They also concluded in their opinion that BPUB was allowed to deduct those unpaid invoices from the city's cash transfer on a quarterly basis. So today, our current bond counsel, Greenberg, Trorick, issued their own opinion on this matter, and they came to the same conclusion. So with that being said, because of the work for the city was being delayed, BPUB and the city, through their respective technical committee staff on April 29th, 2024, have crafted, reviewed, and instituted a process to advance city projects while deferring payment processing per bond provision ordinance. So this agreement between the parties was to defer payment to the first quarter of 2025. And this provided relief to the city because they had not budgeted for any of these expenses in fiscal year 2024. So they had the opportunity to include those expenses in their fiscal year 25 budget. And now the agreement further gave the city 3 options to remedy its outstanding invoices from BPUB. First one was the city can submit payment via check, ACH, to BPUB on in quarterly batches for the previous quarter's outstanding invoices. Second, the city can request a waiver from the full BPUB Board of Directors at a scheduled meeting. And third, BPUB will reduce the cash transfer in quarterly batches for the previous quarter's outstanding invoices. So beginning with the cash transfer in January for the first quarter, fiscal year 2025, around January the 15th, BPUB will deduct the amount of outstanding invoices from the cash transfer if neither options 1 or 2 are met, right? So here we've got the 10 outstanding invoices as of September 30th, 2024, totaling $256,417.60. 89.3% or $228,900 $984.87 of this outstanding invoices represent the lit pole attachment application reviews. In March of 2024, the city manager notified BPUB that the city would reimburse the utility for costs incurred to outsource the review of lit pole attachment permits for a maximum amount not to exceed $1,260,000. So, as you all know, BPUB does deduct the city's utility costs from the quarterly cash transfer, but to my recollection, we have not ever deducted any other unpaid invoices from the cash transfer, so this will be a first for us. So, we are scheduled to forward the city the list of these open invoices as of 9/30/2024 tomorrow, at which time we will reiterate the new procedures for these services. So that'll give the city ample time to think about their payment options, right? And if, again, if they don't satisfy their payment options through either option 1 or 2, then we will be deducting it from the cash transfer effective January 15 of 2025. We did make this presentation to the Finance Committee on October the 9th. So I don't know if any of the Finance Committee members want to add anything else.
Is there any comments or?
No, we just wanted to make sure that the city, that we fully communicate with them, and so that they're fully aware and we keep the communication strong.
And I agree. So this is good information, and the public needs to know that both entities are working transparently and in good faith. There has to be accountability, but we need to work closely with the city so that they can be assured that they're managing their budget, their finances accordingly. So I know there's been a lot of communication, and we look forward to that to continue. Anything else, Mayor?
Thank
Okay.
you for those comments. Any questions?
Yeah, just, do we have any situations where we would owe them money? I mean, should that be part of
Those,
the?
and there are. I mean, they do provide services for us, landfill charges. There's other fees that we pay them. But as soon as they bill us, we process those payments. So as of right now, we don't have anything outstanding that has been billed to us.
Sure,
by the
and
city.
I would expect that to continue, but if this is a new process, I think you would need to include the wording for that, right? Should we not pay, from our side, that we also have to meet, a certain amount of timing for that.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly look into that, into the procedure, but like I said, we just follow our standard accounts payable procedures, and if the invoices are approved by our staff, then we just process them.
Maybe the standard procedure for processing invoices covers that already.
Yes, it
Yeah.
does. It does. So it's no need to include that in this particular procedure.
And it doesn't look to be a large amount, but on the December 2022, is there anything special about that, why it's been open? I mean, has the city?
That was
mentioned-
prior to the arrangement that was made here just in April of 2024. But back then, it's just, I think they were disputing some of those charges, and so it hasn't been paid. It's remained outstanding.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, no, in general, I just want to say I support this. I think it would be good for us to enable this mechanism for us to charge. I think it will provide also some flexibility to them, to the city, and we'll just need to make sure there's some boundaries around this, right? We don't want it to get, too big numbers that we have to settle.
Yeah.
Just for us to
And
kinda
the
think
city's
ahead.
aware of this. I mean, we're currently holding those technical committee meetings the third Thursday of every month to discuss those ongoing projects. And so it's always been reiterated that, this are the payment options that were agreed upon both parties.
and so is
Thank you,
this
Mike.
the only balance? The 256,000, is this the only
Correct,
balance?
as of September 30th.
And so I'm guessing you're bringing it to us because there's an issue? Or is
Well, we
this
just wanted to have
presentation.
the
Just
board
the
acknowledge the
Okay.
new process that was established.
So the city manager has been made aware of this already?
They know about this
Okay.
process.
Okay, Mike, anything else? All right,
Thank
thank you
you.
for that. We'll move on to, we got some action items here. Number 4. Consideration of possible action to approve bid award for the annual supply of wood poles. Diana Solitaire.
Good evening, Chair, members of the board. I'm Diane
Can
Solitaire.
we get you to talk into the microphone?
Just move it down a little bit. Thank you.
I'm Diane Solitaire. The purchasing department opened bids on September 12th for the annual supply of wood poles. We advertised in the Brownsville Herald, we posted in our web page, and we emailed it to 14 vendors, and we had 3 vendors responding. So we have casting of lots for 7 items. The first item is E1004 to KBS or Techline.
Techline.
Okay, E1005 to Techline or KBS.
Techline.
E1006 to Techline or KBS.
KBS Electric.
E1008 to Techline or KBS.
Techline.
E1006-01 to Techline or KBS.
Techline.
E1007-02 to Techline or KBS.
Techline.
E1008-01 to Techline or KBS.
Techline.
Okay. PUB staff recommends approval of bid award for the annual supply of wood poles to the lowest bidders meeting specifications. Techline of San Antonio in the amount of $28,145. KBS Electric in the amount of $115,132. And casting of lots in the amount of $392,718 for a grand total amount not to exceed $535,995.
Okay, we have a recommendation by administration to approve those items or to consider them. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve those items.
We have a motion by Dr. Holman, a second.
I'll second that.
We have a second by Mr. Martinez. All those in favor of approving this item, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against? This motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. We'll swiftly move on to number 5. Is it a repeat?
All right, I read the title.
Yes.
The consideration and possible action for bid award for the annual supply of electrical and electronic spare parts. The purchasing department opened bids on September 13th for the annual supply of electric and electronic spare parts. We advertised it in the Brownsville Herald, posted it on our webpage, and emailed to 18 vendors with 9 vendors responding. We have casting of lots for 1 item, L035-00 to D Reynolds or Integrated Power.
Integrated Power.
Okay, BPUB staff recommends approval of bid award for the annual supply of electrical and electronic spare parts to the following low bidders meeting specifications: Core and Main of Brownsville in the amount of $5,424. Sid Tool, doing business as MSC Industrial Supply of Grand Prairie, Texas, in the amount of $148,877.38. Coastal Automation of Brownsville in the amount of $16,852.10. D Reynolds Company of Corpus Christi in the amount of $407,637.82. Integrated Power Systems of North Miami, Florida in the amount of $283,836. KBS Electric of Austin in the amount of $41,435. CAP of Clifton Heights, Pennsylvania in the amount of $85,171, and casting of lots in the amount of $1,000 for a grand total amount not to exceed $990,233.30.
Okay, we have a recommendation to move this item for action by administration. Do we have a motion?
I will move to approve the recommendation.
Dr. Holman makes a motion to approve. We have a second.
I'll second the motion.
We have a second by Mr. Martinez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against?
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you for that, Diana. Ms. Gilbert, number 6 has been pulled by administration. So
Yes, at this time, if you could take a motion to table the item for consideration and possible action to approve the bid award for the construction of the airport substation and control building.
all right, so we'll entertain a motion to table this item. Anyone interested in the motion?
I'll move to table the item.
Dr. Holman moves to table the item. We have a second.
I second.
Dr. Samona seconds that motion. All those in favor to table this item, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against? This item passes. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Gilbert. So now we have 2 items by Ms. Pinades, our Director of Internal Auditing. See, consideration and approval of the Brownsville Public Utilities Board Internal Audit Charter.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Melida Pinales, Director of Internal Audit. And today I do have the internal audit charter that was presented to the audit committee on August the 21st. And the 2 main changes are actually just my title change from audit manager to Director of Internal Audit. And also the other change within the document is the reporting structure. I no longer report to the general manager and CEO. I now report to the general counsel and chief legal officer. So those are the only 2 changes within the document.
And just for the record, we did have a meeting on this. We reviewed this, and now we're bringing it to the full board. If there's any questions or concerns on this item to Ms. Pinades, or
Will you still be able to go directly to the audit committee?
Yes, ma'am. So the reporting structure is only administratively. I still report functionally to the audit committee and the full board.
Okay, so council cannot tell you, you cannot present such and such to the audit committee?
No, ma'am. So basically, what we mean by administrative is more like vacation leave, sick leave, more that type of administrative. Anything else, I report directly to the audit committee and to the board of directors.
Okay.
I do want to thank Mr. Gonzalez. He has been very, very helpful all these last months. I've been working under his leadership since February.
Thank you.
okay, so we have this, the charter. We had a couple of changes on it. Anybody like to make a motion to approve it as presented by Ms. Pinales?
I make a motion to approve?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Dr. Zamora, second by Mr. Padilla. All those in favor to approve this item?
Aye.
I'll say aye. All those against?
Aye.
This item passes. Thank you, Ms. Pinales. We'll move on to the next one. Consideration approval of the audit committee charter.
Yes, sir. So this is also similar to the internal audit charter, but this one is the audit committee charter. So we've also made some updates, minor updates, to reflect the other current charters that are in place, the finance, the different charters that are within the company. They are required to be brought to the board yearly. So it was also taken to the audit committee on August the 21st. So if anybody has any questions, I'm here to address them.
Okay, it's another item that's been reviewed. We have a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
I'll second that.
Mr. Vidal, motion to approve, second by Dr. Holman. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those against? This item passes. Thank you, Ms. Benales, for your
Thank you.
presentation. Before we move on to closed session, I'll read the following. Recess to close meeting to consider matters pursuant to Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. A meeting with board's legal counsel for advice about contemplated and pending court and administrative litigation and on matters in which the duty of the attorney under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct conflicts with Chapter 551, Section 551.071, including but not limited to the following: reports of local and special counsel, discussion, and I understand this item on discussion of potential amendments to rules of governance. I understand we're not going to review that one at this time.
That's your discretion, sir.
Okay. I think we're going to pull back on that item. We have a board member that's absent, and I think we need a full board. We need to be in a full board to go over that item so everybody will understand some of the rules, some of the changes. Number C, updates on pending negotiations of non-standard contracts related to potential business development. And D, updates on pending discussions with city on coordination issues including BTX, LIT, for soccer programs and compensation for services. Number 2, presentation, discussion, and possible recommendation of information upon pricing of purchased power generation and fuel and their impact upon the fuel, purchased energy, and marketing charge, Section 551.086. Those are the items that we'll be reviewing in closed session. Do I have a motion to move into closed meeting?
I'll move to close.
Dr. Holman makes the motion to move into closed meeting. We have a second?
I second.
Dr. Zamora makes the second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those against? Okay, we're going into closed meeting.
The time is 6:48.
What time? 6:48.
so I'll be back Friday night. Are we ready? Okay. Howdy, all. I am Joseph Holman, standing in for Art Rendon. He had to check out at 7:26. We are back from closed. And going back to my agenda, well, I don't think we took action on, no action items on anything from closed. So with that, I will open the floor up in case anybody wants to motion to close the meeting.
Motion to close?
A second?
All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. Oh, okay. Motion passes. Meeting closed. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Hope you have a good night.